pleasure of being the Director Emeritus of the Village Museum next door, and we're co-sponsoring this event with Linda Ketron of Class Publishing in Pawleys Island. She puts on these luncheon events year after year, closer to her home most of the time, so logistically this has been a bit of a problem. You notice that things are a little tight and a little close in here, but we had almost 80 of you folks wanted to be here today, and I found out that you can only get so many sardines in one can. So we got as many in the room as we could. There were some people that wanted to come, and we had to tell them there was just no room for you end to end. And so I apologize to your cousins and aunts that couldn't make it in, but we did the best we could. We only have one little small meeting room like this available to us, and we thank the town of McClellanville for making it available to us today. Still waiting on that lady. I do want to introduce Randy McClure in the back corner there. Randy's the director of the museum. He's been with us now for 2 or 3 years, and I worked Randy to death. He tried to work me to death, but he found out that I'm older and wiser than he. We got all these chairs together for you and all. I want to thank Linda Ketron, who's back there. She's got all of these ladies, Ann and all of the other, Linda and whoever it is, they've been helping to put it on, and I'd love to get them here because they've been working hard. And then, we've got the judge here, and today's his day. Behind every good man is a better woman. You don't have to come and speak. I just want you to come right. But if you wish, you've got it.
I just want to say that I really want to thank all of you all for being here. It made me and Robert and Robbie real happy. So again, thanks, and y'all have a wonderful time. Thank you all.
And now, I'd like the other members of the family to rise, and that includes nieces and nephews and cousins and uncles. If you're related to the man, stand, please. No matter where you are. Jenkins and Blake family is well represented today. Thank you all for coming. I think I've thanked everybody. I might have left out somebody. I better check and see. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I got you. And if I don't, I apologize. But I just want to start things off by introducing the judge, and by way of doing that, I want to tell you a real quick story. Years ago, I was invited to an event that the judge and Margaret put on for their family here in McClellanville. They gathered up the family. They came for a bit of a reunion. They invited me to come to this small hall and sit in the middle of the room while their children and nieces and nephews and all gathered about me. And I was amazed, because he asked me to talk about the town of McClellanville and the surrounding area, what it was like at that time, what I foresaw for the future of McClellanville and the surrounding area, what changes I hoped for, which ones I regretted probably wouldn't happen, all of those things. And when it was all over, I thought to myself, what an amazing family to bring all of those kids together, explain to them what their community, their hometown faced, hoping that it would inspire them to get busy and make a difference and make that future a little better. Never in my life of working at the museum or speaking on the subject of McClellanville have I ever had an occasion like it since. And I thank them for having me there that day. I hope that in those years that have passed, that the town has gotten a little bit better. It couldn't have gotten much worse. But it is. It is. Times they are changing, and things are getting a little bit better. And we're here today to talk about Judge Robert Jenkins, or Bob as most of you call him. And we're here to talk about his life and what he has given to this community. He rose from a community that was downtrodden a little bit, not the richest in the world, and he fought and he fought and he fought, and he entered institutions that people of his neighborhood weren't invited most of the time, but he opened the doors for himself and for others, and he is to be honored for that initiative and for that spunk and fortitude. And that's what we're here to talk about, is his life. So I'm going to now turn the podium over to him, but I want to remind you, he has written a nice book, and he owns 10 trillion of them now. So I'm counting on all of you. Everybody got a big purse or pocket? Please take one home. It's wonderful, wonderful reading. It's a tribute to a man who has led an exemplary life, and he is one of my heroes. So now it's my great pleasure to present Judge Robert Jenkins.
Thank you, Bob. I'm overjoyed to see all of you here today. I've been sitting at the table and observing you as you come in, and I know virtually all of you. You know me. And this is a very special day for me and my family. And when I talk about me and my family, I talk about the entire McClellanville family. Isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings, and ordinary people like you and me are all builders toward eternity? We are each given a list of rules, a shapeless mass, a bag of tools. And each of us must fashion a life that is either a stumbling block or a stepping stone. We each must play the hand we were given. I learned that speech in elementary school at Lincoln Elementary School. And I recite that poem because it dovetails into my life story. And it dovetails into the title of my book. It's entitled Overcoming. I have lived an overcoming life, but that's not singular to me. Many of you that I observe in the audience have lived an overcoming life as well. But it's not known. It's not written about. It's not told. And so, pandemic gave me the opportunity to reflect on the shadows of my life, and allowed me to come out with this book about my life. But this book is not singularly a book about Robert Jenkins. This book is a McClellanville story. This book is a Charleston story. This book is an American story. And similarly, Kathleen O'Mara wrote a poem about pandemic. Essentially, O'Mara says, stay home. And that's what I tried to do most of the last 2 years. And I'm certain pandemic forced many of you to do the same thing. So why come back to McClellanville to tell your story or to announce your story to the world? McClellanville is where it all began. My book focuses on the institutions of McClellanville that enabled me to be who I am today. It starts with my family life. And this book connects to my ancestors just after the Civil War through the present time. This book covers my youth life at Lincoln Elementary and the challenges that was incurred there. It reflects on the environment that created separate educational institutions that required a 6-year-old boy and others who are 6 years old who live in a community other than the primary community to have to go to school in a makeshift church building in Moss Swamp. Anyone remember Moss Swamp? Oh, yeah. Do you remember there's a church out there? I guess it's not there no more, but that's where I started school.
So, Jesse, the building that's still there is a house now.
There's a house? Yeah. Okay, that's where I started school, with about 20 more of my classmates. And so we experienced busing before busing was fashionable. What I mean by that is this. At 6 years old, we had to get up. Our parents had to get us ready to go to school. There was a bus that came along and took us to Lincoln, the new Lincoln. But that was not where our classes would be. We had to get on another bus to go almost 15 miles to Moss Swamp to begin our classroom day. And I will always remember that experience because for young people beginning school, it's a traumatic experience in the first place. But if you have to go those miles away to start your educational life at 6 years old, that's telling you that you have a challenge ahead of you. I speak in the book about that experience and the experience from black teachers. The black teachers at Lincoln and the black teachers that kept us together and inspired us in spite of our circumstances. I'll talk about the two Lincolns. We have a Lincoln that went to the 10th grade. And that was the Lincoln that was built by monies that were funded by Julius Rosengarten. Well, it's not Rosengarten, it's Rosenwald. Julius Rosenwald was the president of Sears and Roebuck. Did you know that? Yes. Julius Rosenberg teamed up with Booker T. Washington from Tuskegee Institute to develop and build rural schools primarily benefiting black children when the resources of the state was not made available for all of the population. So Lincoln won. Lincoln to the 10th grade was built in combination with the church, who supplied the property. The AME Church was very instrumental in this area, but throughout the nation, education for young black children were primarily promoted and supported by the president of Sears and Roebuck. And that's Lincoln 1. Lincoln 2 is the Lincoln that we all came to know through special appropriations from the state of South Carolina to defend themselves against the Brown versus Board of Education litigation that was pending. That school was built to say everybody has an equal education, although there's separation of the races. So I'm in McClellanville, and I speak of both of those schools in my book. I speak of and pen about Old Bethel AME Church in my book. I penned about the importance of that institution in my life as a young black boy coming up. How it nourished our talents that I didn't know I even had. We were not supposed to succeed. We were not supposed to, in some instances, be educated. So all of this going on in the popular culture helped me to conclude that the name of my personal memoir would be Overcoming. And you overcome through the church, through the faith that the church imbues in you. I take you through the protocols of the church to become a member of the church as a Christian. Do you all remember anyone seeking to find your religion? It's in the book. It's in the book. If anyone in this audience, or anyone near my age or older, within 10 years, then you know what seeking your religion is. Well, I spell it out in the book. It's all there. And it tells you in details what that process is all about. That's an institution that impressed upon my life. We have the church, we have the school, and then we have our family. My book goes back to my great-grandparents, coming up to Adam Jenkins, Mary Blake, on my father's side. On my mother's side, Bonnie Samuel Simpson and Emma Moultrie. And then we run into my parents, who were very instrumental in whatever or whoever I've become. Shepard Nancy Jenkins. I write and details about them. I remember them and what they laid out before their children. My mama had 14 children over a period of about 30 years. Stair-steppers. I have, my daddy loved children so much that he adopted his niece. He didn't go to the court and ask for an adoption. He adopted his niece, and he brought her to live on Dupree Road with all of us other children in an 8-room house. And you know, that adopted daughter would later in life have her children call my daddy Uncle Daddy. And they mean it.
That's right. So good.
So, we go through the siblings and their efforts to overcome. We have to get educated. How do you do that when you don't have money? My daddy was a fisherman on these boats around here. Fishermen don't make money, no, a lot of money. You have to live off the land. But in spite of all this, they guided us and showed us the way to our future, because we were their hope for the future. My book speaks about my experience at Lincoln High School through the 11th grade. My book speaks of my 12th grade experience moving to Burke High School in Charleston. And it tells you why that happened. It abused the notion that I was a traitor from Lincoln High School. But the year that I did spend at Burke High School, I was well taken care of by people such as Andrea Robinson Lawrence, who's in the audience. She was a leader then, and she continues to be a leader now. And so happened the same year that I went to Burke, a young lady by the name of Glennie Mae Ash came to Burke from the other side of Charleston, and she's in the audience. So we're covering a period of about 70 years. It's all in the book. The biggest challenge that I had in writing this book is keeping rabbit trails from blinding me and getting me distracted. So many rabbit trails. So many rabbit trails, but I still stuck to the basic things that mattered. But the most important thing is that it's being written down. It's copyrighted. It's protected. It's in the public sphere. It speaks to who you are. It speaks to who I am because of you. And institutions such as the church, the school, my classmates. I was looking out there to see if Johnny Keith was here. I don't see him. Johnny? Johnny, stand for me. Johnny is my best friend from Thank you for being here, Johnny. I appreciate it. So, the book speaks about an impoverished background. It speaks about family, and I speak of family in the inclusive terms of the community of McClellanville. It speaks of my faith, which comes from the orientation through the church, Old Bethel, the education at Lincoln Elementary and High School, and it speaks of the work ethic that I learned from observing other adults here in McClellanville, and particularly my daddy. The sum total of this book is this: you can overcome anything if it is meant for you to be. And that is why the poem I recited at the outset speaks to this book. This book covers all of the Jim Crow era of my life and your life. It speaks to the great migration that most of us experienced in leaving to find opportunities that did not exist here in the South because of Jim Crow mentality. It speaks of my wasting some time in the great migration city of New York for about 2 years, and I had to catch up. And I had to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That's during the Vietnam era, where most young men my age were at risk of being brought into that war. And I had an obligation to my country, and I had an obligation to finish my education. So the book details what that is about. The book goes on to detail the experience I had when I came out of the military and went back to college. My primary college was the Citadel, and my experience at that institution as a day student veteran. I'm so pleased to see Joe Green, who experienced that with me in the audience. Joe Green and about 12 other of us black Vietnam veterans entered that school and became trailblazers there. Now we have over 250 young black males and females entering the Citadel. It is not consumed with my legal cases that I've experienced during my professional life. It gives you a glimpse of the challenges that we experienced in law school. And it ends with my ultimately being elevated to the judicial bench as a family court judge in the state of South Carolina, where I exercised that responsibility for 18 years prior to my retirement. It gives you some insights also into my new season, which is now, in terms of what I'm doing and what my goal remains. Always overcoming. Always overcoming. The book covers all of the Great Society era of President Johnson, the Voting Rights Act, the War on Poverty, the Plessy versus Ferguson doctrine, and I've covered the others in my previous remarks. So isn't it strange that princes and kings and clowns that caper and sawdust strings and ordinary people like you and me are all builders for eternity? We each are given a list of rules, a shapeless mass, a bag of tools, and each must fashion a life of a stumbling block or a stepping stone. We all have a bag of tools. We must use it and play the hands that we were dealt. I stand between you and lunch. And I know when to start and I know when to stop. There might be some questions. I don't know if we have time to answer it.
We do.
We do? All right, then before lunch, I'll answer whatever questions anyone may have about me and this book. And this is the book. And this is the book. It's condensed. I didn't get into all of the rabbit trails. It's specific to me, but it's specific to you. I brought my pen. I'm going to autograph this book. You buy the book, I'll sign the book and put in the book whatever you want me to put in the book. And buy the book. In buying the book, you're not enriching me, you are enriching yourself. Because much is in this book is you'll see reflections of yourself. You'll see reflections of McClellanville. You'll see reflections of Charleston. You'll see reflections of this good old America that we live in and the challenges that we still face in our future. This book is really good for young people who are going through the primary stages of learning. So I hope this book winds up in schools, in Sunday schools, and any other place where young people go who are properly supervised by role model adults, as I have been properly influenced by role model adults.
Yes, Judge.
Yes,
How did you go about finding your publisher?
publisher.
Yes, sir. My son.
Once you put once they find out you're on the internet looking for something, they'll come to you. Now, I don't know how they do it, but it has to do with the artificial intelligence that's built into the internet. They know you're thinking about doing the book. They're gonna touch base with you. But I wanted to see my publisher face to face. When I was connected with Linda, the largest thing she had going for her initially was she was down in Baldwin Island. It was right off from my home. We got to meet. She was connected to Bob Hill, who runs the museum here. So I can sit down and talk to them. They know people that know me. They know people who raised me. They interact with people, probably virtually everybody in this audience today. So they know what I expect. They know what you expect in my representing you. So I started off with the internet, and then I interviewed a lot of folks that way, but ultimately it led me to Linda Petrin with the class publishing company out of Georgetown era. And that's how I found it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
You plan to write a book?
My son writes a whole lot. I've got 3 or 4 different just home publishing that he writes himself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you still know how to plow?
Yes, I know how to plow. That's Thomas Williams. He's the younger brother of James Biddy Williams. James Biddy Williams and I are almost like brothers. Growing up in McClellanville on Dupree Road, we worked pretty hard to make money. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. But Thomas is interjecting that for me to, he's a comic. He's matched with my brother Doc. There's a pattern in McClellanville. In every household, there is you have a twin in the neighbor's house or somebody's house down the road. My mama had 14 kids in 30 years. That happened routinely in McClellanville. We grew up that way. So he's about 2 years younger than me and Biddy, and so they always want to be like us.
Judge Jenkins,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Well, first, appearing before you on the bench, I was always impressed by your grace and your patience with attorneys and with litigants. So my first question is, was that because of your upbringing in McClellanville and your parents And my second question was, are you mentoring young judges so that they can be like you as they sit on the bench? Because all of us know who practice law, that's when they put on that black dress, some of them get a big hat and they forget what you taught me as an attorney. So those are my two questions for you.
That's Attorney Yammett. She's from Somerville. Now she's at the law school in Charleston. But she and I got together when I worked a long time up in Greenville. And so I'm so proud of you. And I'd like to say this, that the title does not make the man or the woman. It's where they come from that makes the man or the woman. So I brought all of this of McClellanville, of all of you, to that bench with me. And that explains that. I think I made a speech in the book, and it explained to you my thinking about that. Your title does not make you. You don't let your title define who you are. You are your total life's experience. My experience started here. And yes, I'm doing mediation work now. I've got about 3 young lawyers in the office, and I'll pass on any work that comes to me. They want me to be the lawyer. I'm not into lawyering at this phase of my life. I pass it on to them and guide them if they need my guidance and mentor them. And so right now there are 3 young lawyers in my office, and a couple of them are supposed to be here, but I don't see them. But in any event, I'm continuing that relationship. And I enjoy that relationship. But the key is, don't let a robe or any other type of indicia to define who you are. You bring you to the table. So if I accomplish anything, it's because of people from McClellanville. Because I brought them with me to the bench. And they don't treat people in an undignified manner. So thank you for coming. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I'm currently in college, and I would like to know what your advice is for staying motivated.
Staying motivated. Okay. That's Tamara. Tamara's my godchild. Tamara goes to South Carolina State. Tamara got a scholarship in the name of Jim Clyburn's beloved wife, Emily. And so she's probably got 2 more years there. But I'm going to be touching in with you as often as I can to rev up that motivation that you think you need to have. I'm proud of you, Tamara.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if you would reflect on what I would call the failure of integration of the school system in McClellanville.
I don't know that I can do that. I do know that the history of school integration is problematic. It has a lot of things about it that are counterproductive. if the goal was for integration to be such that I get to go to the same school with another race so I can be like another race, then I think that goal is misdirected. The goal of integration should be to empower children to operate in a wider world with people of diverse culture while learning specialized skills. That's my view of what integration should be about. But I'm not going to get heavily into the politics of the time. I've tried to stay away from the politics. Having been a judge in the system, the judges don't get involved in speaking about the politics of any burning issue at any given time, because we got to be perceived as being impartial. And we have got to be perceived as impartial to everybody, whether you agree or disagree. And if I routinely mouth off about this is what I think about this and what I think about that, nobody is going to want to come before me as a judge if they think differently. That's my operating agenda while I'm an active judge, and that exists with most of the other judges that I know of in the system. The bottom line is this: whether it's bad, good, or indifferent, I've overcome it. And that's why my book is Overcoming. I've overcome, you've overcome, we all have overcome, and we're always going to be overcoming. When you stop the overcoming, then that's it. You have no challenge. So that's my view on it. I don't know that I've answered your question satisfactorily, but I'm not a politician, so I don't want to get into that. And I don't want to be quoted as saying something that I didn't mean. Any other questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
If one of your causes, if a cause in life is to get people to vote, and you're living in a time when the courts and the legislature aren't any help in remedying, giving you a remedy for efforts to suppress the vote, what advice would you give to people, if you were advising, who want, in fact, to ensure that all people who want to vote can vote?
Well, then you're getting into the politics of the time. I'm not going to venture into that. I'm not a politician. We all know the issues and the challenges that we face. We got to overcome that just like everything else we had to overcome in history. But I'm not going to stand up here as a retired judge and give advice for advocacy around those issues. We have capable leaders in this room, in this community, in our churches, that will guide our community as the proper way to go. And that's how I view that. So I don't know if you're a reporter or not, but don't be quoting me about anything about the current stuff. That we know right from wrong. We were all given a bag of tools with one set of rules. That's why I quoted that poem. I didn't quote that poem just to behave myself. The answers are there. And we all are decent people. And we know right from wrong. We don't need to debate that. Don't get sidetracked by those types of things. That's my view on that. Yes, sir. My time is up. Thank you.
I don't know everybody in the room, but I know y'all can do better than that. Those of you that can stand, would you join me?